My name's Marc Thatcher. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Émigré. I actually split my time between working as the CFO of Émigré and also I do research for a PhD into theoretical computer science. My interest in computers started when I was about 8 years old. I was at this little village school in St Fagans, just outside Cardiff in Wales. My teacher, Mr Diamond, brought in this Sinclair ZX81, which had just been released. This was this extremely basic by today's standards computer. It had 1K of RAM and it had this plastic flat keyboard, didn't even have proper keys. But for some reason I thought this was the coolest thing I'd ever seen and I became a complete obsessive in computers. For those of you who know, I then got a ZX Spectrum and later on an Atari 520 STFM. I programmed all the time with these things. So I obviously wanted to go and study computer science at university, which I did, but just before I went, I had read Michael Lewis's famous book Liar's Poker, and this really got my interest in finance. I decided I didn't want to be a computer programmer anymore. I wanted to be some sort of investment banker. So after graduating, I started work at N.M. Rothschild in London in their capital markets division doing fundraising. The work was intense, of course, and the hours were long and there was a lot of travel, mostly around Europe, but sometimes further afield, Hong Kong, the Middle East, Japan and Australia a couple of times. I spent a lot of time, of course, wearing suits, which at that time was de rigueur for that business, but not always the best when you're on the move. After doing this for about 10 years, I firstly felt like I needed a break, and secondly, I wanted to get more acquainted with the real fundamentals of finance that I'd frankly learnt as I was going along. So I decided to do an MBA. I went to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, spent 2 years there. Whilst I was there, I'd also thought for some reason I'd try to run a marathon. I did the half marathon, the Philly half marathon first, which went okay. And then I tried the Philly marathon, which went substantially less well. The second half was a real slog. My legs were just totally destroyed. Anyway, after 2 years in the US, I returned with my family back to London and I started work for a New York-based hedge fund in their London office, investing in distressed debt. One evening, I remember being slumped on the sofa after a hard day's work, and on the TV came a documentary about this running race called the Marathon des Sables. It's a 150-mile run through the Sahara desert. You have to carry all your own kit. It takes a week. This sounded completely insane. I thought if I entered this race, I'll die somewhere in the desert. But it also sounded a perfect motivation to get me back into running properly and get fit again. The race had a 3-year waiting list, which was lucky because it gave me plenty of time to train. I trained very hard over that period, and when I did the race in 2010, it was a really great experience. Coming back from that, I got into triathlon. So I had to relearn how to ride a bike after 20 years, and even more daunting, I had to learn how to actually swim properly. So I did a number of triathlons, leading to the Ironman Wales in 2014, which I entered with a few friends. That was a lot of fun. I actually ended up doing reasonably well. So like many triathletes, I really fell in love with the bike part of the sport. And so it's very interesting to be introduced to a group of investors who were looking to buy into a Swiss cycling apparel company. After doing some work with them for a few months on the acquisition, they asked me to join them as their new chief financial officer, and I was very excited to do so. I moved over to southern Switzerland with my wife, who was just over the Italian border, and had a really, really great time. I really enjoyed taking the skills I had from the banking and from the investing parts of my career, but also really using pretty much every part of what I'd done at the MBA in real life and working with the team to create new products, get them to market, get them all financed properly, of course, and grow this established business into new markets. In Switzerland, I used to travel quite a lot as well, although thankfully it was more like every couple of weeks rather than every couple of days. Dressing for work there could sometimes be tricky. A lot of the time it's very informal. A full suit is definitely too formal for that industry. But there are other times where you need to look a little bit smarter. And I remember thinking, there's a bit of a gap here between hanging around in a t-shirt and shorts and having a full-on suit. But at the time I didn't think too much about it. I didn't do anything about it. But in 2020, of course, COVID hit, and I decided to move back to England with my family and decide what to do next in life. Upon returning to England, a mutual acquaintance introduced me to Ralph, who at that time was just starting up Emigre. I think he'd been working on it for about a year at that point. He had very well thought out plans, he had some prototypes in place, but he had no finished products, obviously no sales and barely any sort of team. I thought this could be an interesting new challenge. Can we take this business idea and actually turn it into a real business? So I've been working now with Ralph for about 5 years, and the business is very different. Of course, now we have products, we have sales. We also now have a global team. We have Ralph out in Asia running the show. We have product design in Switzerland and in the States. The accounting team is in Asia, and I'm sitting in England. But thanks to modern technology, everything actually runs very smoothly. And I also get to meet the team at least a few times a year, which is nice. But running the finance side of Emigre is not a 24/7 job. It's still a reasonably small company. I've also moved back to doing my other old love of computer science, and I'm doing a PhD now in computer science. This actually means quite a lot of travel. Up to London every week on the train, down to Sussex to teach a bit and meet with people, and also to go to seminars at different universities across the country. The Emigre backpack and laptop sleeves have been fabulous for this. I mean, not only do they look good, but you can put in all the papers, all the pens, the laptops, the iPads, the textbooks, etc., etc., etc. And for the clothing as well. I mean, in academia, obviously, dressed down is very casual. But there are certain times giving a talk or sometimes teaching a class where you want a little bit of smartness in there. And then putting on an Emigre shirt, gilet and so on just makes that little bit of difference. Outside of work, I still enjoy cycling, running and going to the gym. And you may notice I didn't mention swimming. And the new Emigre sports kit is just great for that. It looks good, it feels great, it performs really well. It's a really exciting time to be at Emigre, and after 5 years, we're just getting started.